Yeah, okay. In the last class, we were discussing about transmission line. So we went through the transmission line equation and solution of the wave equation in transmission line. So we have taken the distributed circuit theory analysis, and we went through the KVL and KCL. Okay, and we got some wave equation, which is traveling inside the transmission line, and the wave equation was comes out to be the voltage and current equation, the V of Z, and which is equal to V naught plus e to the power minus gamma Z. And similarly, for the reflected wave, V naught minus e to the power plus gamma Z. So whether the wave will be travel, voltage will be travel in plus Z direction or minus Z direction. So whether it is an incident, so it will be maybe in plus Z direction, and it is reflected, it may be traveling in minus Z direction. So one of the wave will be there at a time. Similarly, for current, we had I naught plus e to the power minus gamma Z, and I naught minus e to the power minus e to the power plus gamma Z, where gamma was the propagation constant, that was comes out to be alpha plus j beta, and alpha was the attenuation constant, and beta was the phase constant. So we also went through the characteristic impedance. Okay, so characteristic that we found out that that was square root of r plus j omega l divided by g plus j omega c. That is the characteristic impedance. And for the different conditions we found out all the characteristic impedance, propagation constant, then we have a wavelength, phase velocity. Okay, then we have a general solution of voltage, current. So we found out for different medium of transmission line, like lossless transmission line, distortionless line, lowless line, lossy line. Lossy line already we have discussed, so no need to go through the lossy line. Already we have, but we can apply the condition for lossless transmission line, distortionless line, and lowless line. So for the lossless line, that was lossless. So there is no loss at all. So alpha should be equal to zero. That there is no attenuation at all. So that means we need to apply the resistance, resistive loss, and the leakage loss are equal to zero, and G should be equal to zero. So both should be equal to zero for the lossless line, and lowless line, this R should be much less than omega L. That should be very you can say insignificant. That should not be significant at all. Okay, so resistance and conductance, that should be very small. So we have applied, we have applied these condition, and we found out the different characteristics of the transmission line. Similarly, for the distortionless line, that was the condition R by L is equal to G by C, and we can apply these, and we can found out we can find out uh, all these characteristic impedance, and the propagation constant, wavelength, phase velocity, voltage, and current equations. Okay, and we also went through the problem. Okay, so the problem was based on the transmission line. We will also see a few problems in today's class also. Okay, and I'll give you the assignment. In that assignment, you can go through the okay, so problems. So now we have a types of transmission line. Excuse me. So types of transmission line. So at you can say at microwave frequencies, the transmission line can be broadly classified into three types. So we have a multi-conductor lines, single conductor lines, called as also called as a waveguide, and open boundary structure. So the conventional open wire transmission line, which are not suitable for microwave transmissions. So we have seen tower we have, okay, electric tower, and the transmission line which is running on this tower. Okay, so we have a three wire, you can say. So this is the open wire transmission line. So this open wire transmission line, or you can say any open wire transmission line, which is not suitable for microwave frequencies. So at microwave frequencies, or for microwave or you can say microwave transmission, we use these lines, or these transmission lines, and you can say this is classified in three categories. Okay, and why this is not used? This is because the radiation loss is more, and due to the losses, we cannot take out microwave energy from one point to the another point, okay, with higher efficiency. So to have the efficiency and to reduce the radiation losses, we will use this type of transmission lines. So first one is multi-conductor line. Multi-conductor line, it says the transmission line which has more than one conductor, which is called as a multi-conductor line. So more than one conductor, like we have a coaxial lines. In coaxial lines, you can see we have a one conductor inside, inner conductor, and the outer jacket, outer side, we also having one conductor. So more than one conductor, that means multi-conductor lines. So this coaxial lines, we have a strip lines, micro strip lines, slot line, coplanar line. Okay, so these are the different lines. Okay, transmission lines, which is called as a multi-conductor line. Like we have a single conductor lines, is which is also called as a waveguide. Like we have a rectangular waveguide, circular waveguide, elliptical waveguide, single ridge waveguide, double ridge wave. This is the example of single ridge waveguide. This is the double ridge waveguide. You can also see this figure. Okay, so rectangular waveguide, circular, elliptical, single ridge, double ridge. So all these in this we have studied the rectangular and circular waveguide. So now this is called as a single conductor. So that means this type of transmission line having only one conductor, and that conductor will be in the outer jacket. You can say this is the conductor which is there for the rectangular waveguide. This is the conductor for the circular waveguide. There is a single conductor. Okay, and similarly for the elliptical, and similarly for single ridge, double ridge. So this is called single conductor lines. Okay, now we have an open boundary structure. So open boundary, you can also call it as a, this is also an example, you can say free space. So free space also carrying the microwave energies. So free space is also a kind of open boundary structure. So in this we have the open structure, like waveguide, which is open. So you can say one type of waveguide which is called open waveguide. Waveguide is also called as open boundary structure. So that the boundary of that structure will not be confined. So that will be kind of open. Okay, so okay, so this is the kind of one of the transmission line. Okay, so now we will see the first type of transmission, like we have a coaxial lines. So this is the coaxial line transmission line. This is one of the most widely used for high frequency application. So you are using coaxial lines for your TV transmission, like from parabolic dish antenna to the set-top box. Okay, so or from the distributed TV station, distributing TV station to the to your home. Okay, so this coaxial lines is widely used. So this coaxial lines, the structure of this is this one. Okay, this line consists of an inner conductor. Okay, so this is the inner conductor, which is having diameter called as a D. Okay, so inner diameter is D, and then we have a concentric cylinder insulating material. So this is the concentric cylinder. Concentric means like this is the concentric. This is the concentric circle. Okay, this is kind of elliptical. You can say this is the concentric circle. So this is a concentric circle. Okay, so this concentric cylindrical insulating material. So having the permittivity called epsilon R. Okay, now we have a outer conductor that which is surrounded on the outer side, that's called outer jacket, called as a outer jacket, and which is also a concentric cylinder with the inner diameter of D, capital D. So this is the representation or this is the graphical, you can say illustration of the coaxial lines. Okay, now in this coaxial lines we are having the fundamental or you can say dominant mode which is present in the coaxial lines, called as a TEM mode. You can say fundamental and dominant mode of the coaxial cable is TEM mode, and there is no cutoff frequency for this coaxial lines. So you should remember, if I'll ask what is the cutoff frequency for the coaxial lines, so there is no cutoff frequency, no cutoff frequency for coaxial lines. Coaxial lines, and dominant mode for this is TEM mode, and okay, so And if you can say if there is no cutoff frequency, that means they can pass all the frequency which is coming to their path. So that can pass all the frequencies. Okay, but sometimes for the higher frequency you can go some several hundreds of gigahertz, or several gigahertz. So at higher frequency, some of the higher order non-TEM mode starts propagating, and that causes a lot of attenuation. So non-TEM mode like T or TM mode, they can propagate at some higher frequencies. So if they propagate inside these coaxial lines, non-TEM mode, you can say, if they propagate, so at that time the attenuation takes place, and you can say at higher frequency they causes, the coaxial line causes a lot of attenuation. Okay, so second one, we are having the strip lines. So this is one of the structure for the strip line which is shown here. So the strip line, you can say this is the ground plane, the two ground plane which is there for the for the strip line. So this is the first ground plane, top to upper ground plane, and this is the lower ground plane. So there is a ground plane in the strip lines, and one in the center line we have one strip. So one strip is there which is having some width, w. Okay, so which is having some width w, and the thickness which is t. Okay, which is thickness which is t, and the distance between these two ground plane is called b by 2, which is indicated as b by 2. Okay, so the strip line is also called as a planar transmission line. Okay, used for frequency, you can say 100 megahertz to 100 gigahertz. Okay, and strip line consists of central thin conducting strip. Width is w, and the thickness is t. Okay, and you should remember that width should be greater than t. Okay, so width should be greater than thickness t. Okay, so that is in rectangular in shape. Okay, rectangle in shape, like thickness should be less than the width. It is placed inside the low loss dielectric epsilon r, also substrate, and the thickness between the ground plane, or you can say the distance between the ground plane, that is indicated by b by 2. Okay, and the width of the ground plate, that should be you can say which is equal to the width of this one. This is the width, no? This is the width. So width of this ground plane is indicated by W1. So this should be 5 times of the width. Okay, 5 times of this width. So this is the like structure which is there. This kind of structure is there, and of course the thickness of the ground plane is also indicated as a T. Okay, this is kind of thickness is also T for this ground plane. You can just represent here like this way. So thickness is also T. Okay, so all these thickness is indicated as a T. Okay, the strip is placed inside the low loss dielectric substrate, which is having thickness p by 2, and between two wide ground plane. And the fundamental and dominant mode in the strip line is TEM mode. So again here the fundamental mode is and dominant mode is TEM mode, and the impedance of the strip line is proportional to the bandwidth. Okay, so which is represented here. This is the kind of structure which is given. This is the micro strip line, okay, which is shown here. And you can say the micro strip line. Okay, so one of the structure which is there for the micro strip line, and the micro strip line which is shown here. Why micro strip line is used? This strip line is having some disadvantage, and disadvantage is that that is not accessible for adjustment and tuning. So why this is not accessible for adjustment and tuning? Because the strip which is used in the strip line, which is inside the ground plane, or you can say inside the structure. So we have this structure, we have the kind of a structure in that you can see this is the inside. So after fabricating this kind of strip line, this type of transmission line, we cannot tune at all. So suppose we fabricate for one particular frequency or one range of the frequency, so we cannot tune for different frequencies. Okay, suppose we are having some application for 5 gigahertz, and maybe we have taken the strip line which is for 2 to 3 gigahertz. So we cannot take this, we cannot use this type of lines. So to have this type of lines which is having the tuning facility or adjustment facility, so we can use the micro strip line. So this strip line has has a disadvantage, that is it is not accessible for adjustment and tuning. So this can be avoided. This can be avoided by using the micro strip line. So we use instead of a strip line, we use micro strip line. So micro strip line having active or passive devices mounted on the top of the ground plane, top of the plane, you can say, which allows us to make a minor adjustment. Okay, minor adjustment or tune after the circuit has been fabricated. So after fabrication, you can adjust here. Okay, so you are having the strip line. You are having this type of line, and this you can see. This is the upper ground plane. This is the lower ground plane. So this is also called as a top of the plane. Okay, in that ground plane, or you can say top ground plane. So we are having same type of strip which is used and here, and having the thickness T, and the width is W, that is conductor strip, and in between we have a dielectric substrate which is epsilon R, and the height is H. Okay, so now this type of a structure, you can see this is not symmetrical at all. Here it was symmetrical because we are having the ground plane, we are having here also the ground plane, and in between, in center line, you can say we are having some strip. Okay, so you can say if you cut it from here, this position, you can say this is symmetrical in shape. Okay, so this is not symmetrical. Okay, so this is a kind of a structure which is not symmetrical, and the characteristic impedance here, we if we find out the characteristic impedance Z naught, so that will be some value. Before going to the Z naught, I'll give you one more type of structure is there. So suppose if we are having this, this is the rectangular in shape. Suppose if you want to have the circular shape on the top of this, the conductor strip is in circular in shape. So that will be look like we have a ground plane, and that will be look like this is the circular kind of a structure, conductor strip which is there, and this is having diameter which is called D, and of course the center is there. So center line from here to here, here to here, height is H, and in between we have epsilon R. This is the ground plane, or you can say top ground plane which is there on this one. So instead of am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, there was a power failure. Okay, so yeah. So this is the kind of a structure which is having the rectangular strip on the top of this conductor strip, and here the circular strip. So for this Z naught will be the characteristic impedance will be in terms of H, T, W, and here in terms of H, D, and okay. So if you want to find the characteristic impedance for this one, so this will comes out to be epsilon. This will comes out to be 60 upon square root of epsilon naught 60 upon square root of epsilon. There is a derivation for this, so I will not go through this. I will just take it this one directly. So z naught is equal to 60 upon square root of epsilon r ln 4h by d. 4h by d. Now, if you want to have this characteristic impedance for this one, so this will be around 87 divided by square root of epsilon r plus 1.41, okay, ln 5.89 h divided by 0.8 w plus t. So that is there for this one, okay. So now the relation between this and the thing is the condition, there is some condition for this z naught. So this h and w, there is a condition, so h should be less than 0.8 w, and for this we have h should be greater than, h should be greater than much greater than d, okay. So that is the condition there. You can use this condition, and if you want to relate these two h and d, so we can relate, and d is around to be 0.67 w, 0.8 plus t upon w, that is there, rectangular to circular conductor, okay. So that is the relation between these two. Microstrip line is an unsymmetrical, okay, unsymmetrical parallel plate transmission line having a dielectric substrate between the ground conducting plate at the bottom and the thin conducting strip on the top with the thickness T and the width W. That's what I have dictated you, okay, I have explained. And the characteristic is a function of a strip line with W and the thickness T, okay. So distance between line and ground plate is H, okay. So this line and the ground plate which is H, okay. And in between the dielectric substrate we have a dielectric material, like we have a dielectric material, and the permittivity of this is epsilon r, okay. So now we have another type of transmission line, that was you can say other lines which is there as a parallel strip line, okay. So parallel strip lines, okay. So parallel strip lines is there, and we have a slot line, okay, slot line. So I'll go very quick, okay, these type of lines. So parallel strip line is similar to two conductor transmission line, and it is similar to two conductor transmission line, So in that we have a parallel stack, okay. So the structure is like this. We have a strip lines, okay, two conductor lines, you can say, okay, 1 minute. Like this, we have a parallel lines which is there, okay. So this is the kind of structure which is there for this parallel line, and in that we have a conductor, in between we have a dielectric, okay. So dielectric, uh, okay. So this is the parallel strip line, and the strip which is there on the on this plate, the strip will be there on this plate and here also, so okay. So this kind of structure is called parallel strip lines, okay. It can support quasi TEM mode. So it can support quasi TEM mode, okay. So quasi TEM mode, and okay. So this is the kind of a structure, parallel strip line. Now we have a slot line. The slot line consists of a slot, or it's a gap in the conducting coating on a dielectric substrate, and this fabrication process is identical to microstrip line. So whatever we have a microstrip line which we have seen here, so in that you can say this is the kind of line which is there, and here we have a substrate dielectric substrate, and in between the thickness, the height is h, okay. Here the structure is like this, and this is the by using the metallization process we just coat the metal here. So this is the metal, okay, or you can say conductor, using the metallization process we do, and the width W, which is here, which is etched here, okay. So this is the representation for slot line, which is there for the transmission line. Okay, slot line transmission line. And one more type, we have a coplanar transmission line. Okay, so I'll write here coplanar transmission line. So coplanar transmission line, you can say coplanar transmission line, or coplanar strip transmission line. Coplanar strip transmission line. So in the coplanar transmission line, it is formed using two conductor strips. So there will be a two strips on the top of the plate. So top plate, we have a two strip which is there. Okay, so one strip is represented here. Okay, another strip which is represented here. So there will be a two strip on the top of this, and this strip is having width W. This is also width of W, and in between the space in between this, the distance is S. Okay, which is represented by, and the thickness, of course, this is called D, or you can say represent as a H also. Okay. So this is formed by two conducting strip with one strip grounded, okay, and one will be grounded. So this is the two strip on the this one, okay, and one will be like we have a ground structure, okay. So one will be grounded, and both being placed on the same substrate surface. So one the top surface we have and the bottom surface we have. So both will be placed on same surface. In that, one will be grounded. Okay. So this is the figure for the coplanar transmission line. Okay, and this is the figure for slotted transmission line. Okay, so you can go through once, but very quick. Okay, this type of transmission line. Now we have microwave cavity resonator. Before going to microwave cavity resonator, I would like to give you one problem, okay, based on microstrip transmission line. Okay, so I'll solve very quick. Okay, let me have a blank slide. 1 minute. Okay. So the problem which is there for the characteristic impedance of microstrip line, and in that problem, it is given that the certain microstrip line has the following parameters. So parameters which is given here, epsilon r is equal to 5.23 and h is equal to 7 mils. Okay, the one of the unit which is given here, and T is equal to 2.8 mils, and we have W width which is equal to 10 mils. Okay, so now you are asked to calculate the characteristic impedance, Z naught of the line. So you need to find out the characteristic impedance of the transmission line. Okay. So all these things which is given here, epsilon r, h, t, w, which is given here, and you need to find out the characteristic impedance. So Z naught, we have the formula Z naught, which is equal to 87 upon square root of epsilon r plus 1.41, and ln 5.98 h, which I have written here 5.98 h, divide by 0.8 w plus, okay, so divide by 0.8 w plus t. So you can use this all the value and try to find out. So you will be able to find out that value will comes out to be 45.78 ohm. So that is the value you will get. Okay. So go through this type of lines. Okay, try to solve the problem based on that. Okay, now we will see the cavity microwave cavity resonator. Okay, microwave cavity resonator. So the cavity resonator is quite similar to the microwave rectangular microwave which we have seen, or circular sorry, rectangular waveguide or circular waveguide which we have seen. Okay, so circular waveguide which we have seen, but subject to condition that this is confined in the z direction. So its name is cavity. Okay, its name is cavity. So cavity means there is a hollow structure, and one of the side, or you can say all, sorry, well, not one of the side, all the side should be confined. Okay, there will be some kind of cavity, some box will be there. Okay, so this is the structure which is given here. Like you can see, we have in x direction, y direction. So this is the kind of dimension in the x direction is a, and in y side we have a b, and similarly for the z side it is d. Like in the correct dimension, because wave is propagating inside this z direction. Okay, so propagating was z direction. So the wave which we have seen in the rectangular waveguide was e to the power minus j beta g into z. Like this, we have seen e to the power minus j beta g into z. Beta g was propagating propagation constant. Okay, beta g. So beta g into z, like we don't have sine something or sine or cosine function. So here we are having the confined z component, or z direction is confined. So that will be in the sinusoidal form, or cosinusoidal form. Okay. So cavity or resonator is a metallic enclosure. Okay, metallic. Okay, so the metallic structure is there, but all the sides is enclosed. It confines electromagnetic energy. So that confines electromagnetic energy. Here also we are using electromagnetic energy, but this is a metallic enclosure structure. Okay, so and this is a metallic enclosure. It is a hollow metallic because the structure is hollow. So hollow metallic enclosure exhibit a resonance when excited by an electromagnetic field. So when you excite with electromagnetic field, it exhibit a resonance. Okay, so resonance means it's kind of resonating wave is there inside this structure. Okay, so when you excite with electromagnetic field, there will be a resonance, and enclosure are known as a cavity resonator, and are widely used above frequency called 3 gigahertz. So widely used above 3 gigahertz. So if I ask you at what frequency widely we used, or what frequency we use widely use the microwave cavity resonator. So you can say it's above 3 gigahertz. If in the option it is given as above 3 gigahertz, you should take the above 3. Now we have the electric and magnetic energies stored inside the cavity determine its equivalent inductance and capacitance. So if you want to find the equivalent inductance and capacitance inside the cavity, so basically we have electric energy and magnetic energy that is stored inside the cavity, and that will give you the resonance behavior. Okay, so you can determine its equivalent inductance as well as the capacitance. So as a resonator is having infinite number of resonant mode. So there is an infinite number of resonant mode inside this cavity, and each mode corresponds to a definite resonant frequency. Okay. So infinite number of resonant mode is there, and each mode corresponds to a definite resonant frequency. So there will be resonant frequency. So infinite number of resonant frequency will be there. Okay. So when the frequency of the impressed signal, okay, impressed signal is applied electromagnetic wave. So when the frequency of applied electromagnetic wave or impressed signal is equal to a resonant frequency, that is there inside this cavity. So equal to resonant frequency, maximum amplitude of standing wave occurs. So there will be maximum amplitude of the standing wave at the resonant frequency. So if this match with the impressed signal, this frequency is matched with the resonant frequency. So F is equal to FR. So there will be maximum amplitude of the standing wave. Okay. And here the wave is nothing but if you are applying the wave will strike out through the wall, and that will strike through this all the wall inside this wall, and that makes a standing wave inside this waveguide. Okay. And of course there will be loss through the in terms of heat. So there will be a heat loss also through the waveguide, but we are there to reduce the heat as much as possible. Okay. So we use such type of material so they cannot radiate much energy outside of the wave of the cavity. So at resonant frequency, the peak energy is stored in the electric field and magnetic field are equal. Okay, so peak energy will be equal in terms of electric field and you can say magnetic field. The mode having lowest resonant frequency is known as the dominant mode. Of course, you know the dominant. What is dominant? So dominant means the mode you can say which is having lowest resonant frequency. There is no cutoff frequency here because we are not using the cutoff frequency. The wave is not propagating here. So here we are having the standing wave. So we just checking the resonant frequency. So there is infinite number of resonant frequency because infinite number of mode existing inside this waveguide. So mode having lowest resonant frequency, the mode having lowest resonant frequency, that is called dominant mode. You should be able to find out the lowest resonant frequency. That means that's called resonance frequency. Okay, so that's called dominant. That will give you the dominant mode. Now we are having the two type of cavity. Like we are basically dealing with the two type here, two structure here. So there are many type of structure, many type of cavities there. Like we have seen the waveguide, like we have elliptical waveguide also, the single leads, double leads. So different kind of waveguide is also there. But here we are dealing with the two structure, rectangular as well as circular. So we will see the rectangular as well as circular. So we have a rectangular cavity resonator. The rectangular cavity resonator, we should have a structure of rectangle kind of structure, like A dimension in X and B in Y. And similarly in the Z direction, we have a D. Okay. So we just take the M number of mode which is existing in the X direction. So M, N, and P. Similarly, we have M and P. Mod number is there. So rectangular cavity resonator says the electromagnetic field inside the cavity should satisfy Maxwell's equation, subject to the boundary condition that electric field tangential to and magnetic field normal to the metal wall must vanish. So there we have also seen in the rectangular waveguides, electric field tangential to the wall, metal wall, they vanish, and magnetic field normal to the metal wall, they vanish. So we just combine these two, and we have written directly we have written the magnetic field component as well as electric field component in the Z direction. We can write for all the direction as well. So we can go through this and we can write, because we don't have only Z component. We have X component, Y component, all the electric field and magnetic field, total 6 component is there. So we can go through that also, but we have written for simplification purpose or for easier purpose. Okay. So just a simple representation like Hz and Ez, which is represented here. So you can see Ez, which is Hz, which is represented H naught Z cos m pi by A. Okay, so for this, this is called TE. For TE mode, we have Hz component. So Hz is equal to H naught Z cos m pi by A x cos n pi by B. There it was e to the power minus j beta g into Z. Here it is not wave propagating in through the Z direction. It is a sine p pi by Z into D, sine p pi Z by D. So that means here what is the value of M, N, and P? So M should be M can be 0. Okay, N can be 0 because cos 0 can be 1, cos 0 can be, but P should not be 0. If P becomes 0, Sz will be 0, and that should not be happen. So M should be 0, 1, 2, 3, dot, dot, dot. Even N is also, M and N both are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But P should be starting from 1, 2, 3, 4 like this. Okay. So you should remember this. Okay, you should remember this, the correlation which we have studied, and this M and N, M and P basically here represents the number of halfway periodicity in the X direction, Y direction, and Z direction. Okay. This is called halfway periodicity. Now we have a EZ component. So EZ component due to the TM mode. So we can say TM, and here MNP mode is there. So MNP 3 will be MNP, all these XYZ direction that will be existing, and it is represented EZ is equal to E naught Z sin M pi by AX, sin N pi by B, and cos P pi by D into Z. So here you can see this M should be equal to starting from 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, dot, dot, dot. So that N should also be 1, 2, 3. You can just ignore this, not 0. This is not 0. If this is 0, this should be there for this one. Okay. So you should just check it out. Okay. That is there. Okay. And P should be starting from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that is called number of halfway periodicity in X direction, Y direction, as well as Z direction. Okay, so this is a halfway periodicity. Here you can see it is written here, so you could go through this. Okay, in Z direction, P is not equal to 0 for HZ, that is T and P mode. Okay, T, M, and P mode. So that is written here. Okay, so P should not be equal to 0. So it is written here, P should not be equal to 0. Okay. So just keep in mind, you are having all the sinusoidal and cosinusoidal component. So try to check out, this should not be 0. Okay, so MNN condition satisfied, that it should not be overall 0. Okay, because at any value, the lower value as minimum as possible, you should write your numbers. Okay, and that should be integer form. Now we have the separation equation for both T and TM mode is given by K is equal to square root of M pi by A whole square, N pi by B whole square, P pi by D whole square. So whatever we have seen for there, K is equal to KC plus, you can say KC is equal to KX plus KY, KC square. There we had written KC square is equal to KX square plus KY square, and that's called cutoff wave number. So Kc square is equal to Kx square plus Ky square, and the Kc is equal to square root of Kx square. Here it is K is equal to square root of Kx square, Ky square, Kz square. So it is written as M pi by A whole square, N pi by B whole square, P pi by D whole square. So for lossless dielectric, we have K square is equal to omega square mu epsilon, omega is equal to 2 pi F, and F is comes out to be 1 by 2 pi root under mu epsilon into K. Okay, so you can write here, and that will be written as 1 by 2 pi square root of mu epsilon square root of M by A whole square and by B whole square, P by D whole square. That's called F, which is called resonant frequency. Okay, so this is the formula for the resonant frequency. You should remember that for rectangular cavity resonator, what is the resonant frequency formula? So that is the formula which is there for. Here we have taken P outside, and here the P, here we have taken pi outside from all these component. Here pi will be cancelled, so that it is written directly 1 by 2 root under mu epsilon. You can also write for this one for mu r epsilon r is equal to 1 if this is there. So you can write C by 2. Okay, if you want, you can write mu r into epsilon r is square root of M by A whole square, N by B whole square, plus P by D whole square. Okay, so you can write it in this way also, because C is equal to 1 by square root of mu naught into epsilon naught. So we have written directly. Or if this mu r epsilon r is equal to 1, so this can be written C by 2 square root of this one. Okay, and depends on mod number, it may be M, N, P, so whatever the value. So you can have this dominant mode. So what should be dominant mode? So dominant mode means the mode which is having the lowest resonant frequency. So if you go through the rectangular cavity resonator, and you will be able to see a dominant mode is TE101 mode, and subject to condition at TE10 mode means subject to condition at A should be greater than B. A should be greater than, then only TE10 mode, TE101 mode will be exist. Like this rectangular waveguide we have seen for rectangular waveguide. This is for rectangular cavity resonator. For rectangular waveguide, we have seen that what is the resonant frequency? Waveguide, the resonant, the sorry, the cutoff, the dominant mode was TE10. TE10 subject to condition that A should be greater than B. Here also TE10 will be there, but P mode is by default it is 1, because for T, P is starting from 1. So it is by default 1. So TE101 will be there because it is minimum, P minimum value is 1. So TE101 will be there. Okay, subject to condition A is greater than B. And 99% cases A is greater than B. Okay, so that is the case. For the analysis purpose, it is 99%, it is A greater than B. Okay, so you can just relate with the rectangular waveguide. Okay, but here it is a cavity, so we should restrict the Z direction. Okay. Similarly, we have a circular waveguide. Okay, so similarly, we have a circular waveguide, circular cavity resonator. So in the circular cavity resonator, it is similar to the circular waveguide which we have seen. So circular waveguide with two ends enclosed by metal wall. So two ends enclosed by metal wall. So here this is also enclosed by metal wall. This is also enclosed by metal wall. So these two circular waveguide, if the circular waveguide is enclosed from both the side of the wall, so you'll get a circular cavity resonator. And this is the enclosed structure which is formed here. And the wave function in circular resonator should satisfy Maxwell's equation. Of course, Maxwell's equation should satisfy. And the same boundary condition which we have applied, which we have went through the rectangular cavity resonator, which can be used here, the boundary condition. And using the boundary condition and the analysis which we have went through the circular waveguide, which can be used here. So analysis means the mathematical analysis which we have used, like for Bessel function and the all these the Maxwell's equation starting from all the wave equation, Helmholtz equation, whatever we have seen the derivation that can be used here. And the wave equation or the field equation which we have found out in the Z direction for the TE mode, which can be used here, and the TM mode, that is the field equation in Z direction, EZ, which can be used here. And representation for the HX, HY, EX, EY, okay, which can be that we had used. Similar we can use here also. Restrict subject to condition that in the you can say Z direction it is restricted. So Z direction it is restricted means there we had used in Z direction we have used the component which is e to the power j beta z into Z. So it is the wave is propagating into Z directions, but here it is a sine q pi by d, and here also the cos q pi by d. So it is sine q pi by d. So that means the q should be here. Q should be starting from you can say q should be starting from 1 2 3 1 2 3, okay, dot dot dot, and here the q should be starting from 0 1 2 3. So according to this we can find the dominant mode. So this is a T and PQ. So N will be there, P will be there, and the Q will be there. So NP again we can find out from the X and P dash, we can find out from the Bessel roots, like we have a Bessel first kind we have seen. And from that we have found out the X and P dash and X and P table. So we can find out from that table if you want to use in the problem, so we can use there. Okay, so N should be equal to 0 1 2 3, which is there and is the number of periodicity in the phi direction, and P is equal to 1 2 3 4 is the number of zeros in the field in the radial direction. And Q, of course, 1 2 3 4 is the number of half wave in axial direction. So this is NPQ is valid for TE NPQ mode. And if you want to go through for TM NPQ, so this is the condition for TM NPQ mode. Okay, and Gn is equal to Bessel function of its first kind, and H naught Z is equal to amplitude of the magnetic field. Similarly, E naught Z is equal to amplitude of the electric field, and NPQ is for TM and PQ mode. Okay, so the separation equation for TE and TM mode are given by this K square is equal to this one, and this is the K square for this one. Okay, so there it was this was omitted. Okay, this was not there. So here, because we are restricted in z direction, so this should be there. So q pi by d whole square, here also q pi by d whole square, that term will be added. So k square is equal to omega square mu epsilon. So omega square mu epsilon will comes out to be this one for T mode, and this for TM mode. So here you can see for TE some different, and TM it is different, because TE we are using x dash np, and TM you are using xnp. So both are different. So that means the resonant frequency will also differ. So for the above two equation, we can find a resonant frequency for T and TM mode respectively, and F is comes out to be 1 by 2 pi root under mu epsilon, XNP XNP by E whole square. Okay, one is mistake. One thing, XNP dash. It is not XNP dash. It's XNP mistake. So XNP dash whole square q pi by d whole square for TE, and similarly for TM we have this one. Okay, q pi by d whole square for TM mode. So you can find out whether which one is dominant mode. Okay, so to have dominancy, we need to check out, okay, what should be the value for TE. So TE we can see n is starting from 0 and P is starting from 1, Q is starting from 1. So n equal to 0 or n equal to 1. So there we have seen for TE in circular waveguide, So we have seen in circular waveguide TE11. TE11 was the dominant mode, not TE10, because XNP11, X11 was the least value. So we have X dash 11 is the least value. So TE11 should be dominant mode. So TE11 is dominant mode, and P is of course Q is of course it is 1. So it should be by default 1. So TE11 mode is the dominant mode. Similarly for TM11 was the dominant. Here also the XNP X11 is also the least value. So TM11 is the dominant mode, and 0 because this value is starting from 0. So that should be 110 is the dominant mode. Okay, so subject to condition that D should be less than A. So D should be less than A. So this is the condition which is there for D should be less than A. So this is the circular cavity. So for the circular cavity, so this the height of the height, or you can say height of the cavity should be less than the radius of the cavity resonator. Okay, so that is the condition which is there. Okay, so you should be able to check out. So this will be dominant mode for D less than A, and this is the dominant mode for D greater than A. So you should be able to check a dominant mode. There is two dominant mode for the circular cavity resonator, but there is a condition that for one is D greater than A and one is D less than A. So if the D will be greater than the height in the Z direction, the height of the cavity is greater than radius, then that will be the dominant mode. T11 is the dominant mode. Okay, so you should remember this dominancy and the cutoff and the resonant frequency of the mode. Okay, so just write down on one paper and all these, and try to check out what is the comparison between all these. Okay, so just go through this once. Okay, now we have last slide. This is the last slide. We have quality of a cavity resonator. Okay, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So now, yeah, now we have quality factor, or you can say quality of the cavity resonator. So it is represented by Q, capital Q, which is called quality factor. Now this quality factor which is represented here. Okay, before going to the quality factor, let me tell you about one of the type of one more type of cavity resonator, that is called as semi-circular cavity resonator. But this is quite similar. All the derivation and all the things which is same, but you can go through once this also semicircular. Okay, so one of the type which is given semicircular cavity resonator. Semicircular cavity resonator means cavity which is circular cavity which is there. You just cut it half. Okay, so semicircular. So it will be just cut out vertically, center from center line. Just radially it is cut out. So that will be called semicircular cavity resonator. So it is similar to all the equation, and you can say resonant frequency of the this one. So the resonant frequency is similar to the circular cavity resonator. So this is also similar, but one of the different types of the cavity resonator is there. Okay, now we have a quality factor. So quality factor is a measure of frequency selectivity of the of a resonant or anti-resonant, okay, circuit, and it is defined as a Q is equal to 2 pi into maximum energy stored divided by energy dissipation per cycle. So this is the definition for this one, which is there. The quality factor is equal to 2 pi into maximum energy stored divided by energy dissipated per cycle. Okay, per cycle. So energy dissipated per cycle. So we have Q, which is equal to 2 pi into F into W divided by P. So we got this as omega into W divided by P. So that is the thing which is here. So this is 2 pi into W, and this energy dissipated per cycle. So this is called P by F, and we got that omega into W divided by P. So P is equal to average power loss, which is given here, and the resonant frequency at resonant frequency, the electric and magnetic energies are equal. So omega is equal to W, which is equal to WE. So that's why energy is stored. So that is volume integral of epsilon by 2 E square dV, which is equal to omega n. Okay, so mu by 2 H square dV. So the electric energy and magnetic energy both are equal. Okay, so that is represented by these two equation, and this E and H are the peak value of electric field intensity and as well as magnetic field intensity. So average power loss in the resonator can be evaluated by integrating the power density. So P can be written as this R squared 2 into HT square dA. Integration of HT is equal to peak value of tangential magnetic intensity, and R is equal to surface resistance of the resonance. So quality factor comes out to be this equation, and we have H is equal to HT square plus this tangential magnetic field square, normal magnetic field square. So okay, so the value of HT square at the resonator wall is approximately twice the value of H square average over the volume. So quality factors comes out to be this one, and F naught. Okay, F naught is comes out to 1 by 2 pi root under LC, and quality factor Q naught is equal to omega naught L by R. So omega naught L by R, that is at you can say unloaded quality factor, which is given here. So and unloaded resonator frequency, which is given as F naught is equal to 1 by 2 pi root under LC. Okay, so this is how you can go through, but you should remember this the definition of quality. Okay, quality factor. Definition of quality factor, which is there, this one, we should remember this one. Okay, quality factor is 2 pi into maximum energy stored divided by energy dissipated per cycle. Okay, and uh, this is how you can go through this, and the final quality factor formula, which is comes out to be quality factor is equal to omega mu. Okay, into volume divided by 2 into RS surface area. Surface area. So you can go through this. Okay, try to have the uh, concept of this, and okay, and one more thing I want to tell you about What was there? Okay. Yeah, okay. So this is how we complete unit one. So there, this was the syllabus for unit one. Let me have the view. Yeah, this was the syllabus for unit one. So we have completed rectangular waveguide, field components, TE, TM mode, dominant TE10 mode, field distribution, okay, power attenuation, circular waveguide, TE, TM mode, okay, so TE, TM mode in circular waveguide, wave velocities, okay. Then we have went through the microstrip transmission line, coupled transmission line, okay, strip transmission line, coupled strip transmission line, coplanar, yeah, coplanar we went through. Coupled strip line we did not went through, okay. So no need to worry about, we can go through this. This microwave cavity. So last one we had completed microwave cavity. So till now, this is the syllabus for first unit. So first unit completed. I'll give you the assignment. So you go through the assignment, try to solve the assignment, okay, and submit it to me, okay. That is in online mode only. Just some sent on. I'll make a Google Classroom, okay. So in Google Classroom you can submit, okay. One more thing. I'll give you one formula for maybe this may be useful for you anytime. You can go through this. We have discussed about the coaxial lines. Yeah, coaxial lines. So if you want to find the inductance and as well as capacitance for the coaxial lines, you might have went through this. Okay, you know, you may be knowing the formula. So if you want to go through the inductance and capacitance for the coaxial lines, so this inductance of the coaxial line will comes out to be mu upon 2 pi ln b by a. So b was the radius of this one and a was the radius of this one. So you just go through this, and capacitance was 2 pi epsilon divided by ln b by a, okay, ln b by a, where epsilon is equal to the value of this concentric cylinder or concentric circle, okay, concentric cylinder you can say. So you can go through this. This is L is equal to inductance of this and capacitance of this, okay. And if you go through the parallel wire transmission line, and if you want to find for this parallel wire transmission line, if you want to find the inductance as well as capacitance for this parallel wire transmission line, inductance is due to the current which is or the magnetic field which is propagating inside this line. So that due to this we have the inductance, and the capacitance due to the parallel conductor. So the two conductor. So if you want to find this is the diameter of this is called 2a, and this distance between these two is called b. So if you want to find the inductance L, so L is comes out to be mu upon pi cos h inverse b upon 2a, okay. And if you want to find the capacitance, so capacitance was pi epsilon divided by cos h inverse b upon 2a. So you can go through this. This may be useful for you, okay. Okay, if you have any doubt, please let me know, okay, in the till now, okay. I'll share this all these 60 slides with you. You can go through, and tomorrow is Saturday. Huh? Tomorrow is Saturday. I told you that I'll take a quiz on Saturday. So maybe you're comfortable.